babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe Show, a spin-off of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, while you're watching this, it is Wednesday, so that means it is time for an internet insanity segment. Yes, it's time to look at some fucked up shit I have found on the internet. And today, you guys, we are going into full-blown into Hollywood today, and we're going to be talking about Oprah, okay? So for me, I grew up absolutely loving this woman, and through the pandemic, when I got shoved into my house, I learned a little bit more, and it is not the first time I've talked about her on this show, and I'm sure it won't be the last, but there has been a lot of buzz going around about her lately, so I thought we can talk about that today. I have found 3 articles that I'm going to present to you guys, and just my thoughts on the situation and how bummed out I absolutely am reading this kind of stuff, and just her connections. So if you are interested in listening to that, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babe, so as a millennial, I grew up absolutely loving Oprah. My mom loved Oprah. I don't think there's anybody that I knew at the current time growing up, especially before social media, did anybody even whisper a bad thing about her. I think the only thing I could remember growing up whispering about her that wasn't the greatest was that she got very trapped. And I mean, hey, we've all done it. And I think it's okay to get trapped up in these, but it's like when you're trying to sell it to your clientele or your listeners and your supporters, and you know, what would be an influencer back then were only celebrities and talk show hosts and that kind of thing. So one issue that I had is just how much she did push different type of weight loss things. It's one thing to say, you know, like, hey, I'm doing this, but she even admitted herself in the past couple of years, I think it was in the last 10 years, that, you know, she does know the impact that made on people. So I will say that this isn't to discredit any of the good things that she's done, and this is no mean to hate on Oprah. I know so many people that love her, and like I said, I did as well as a millennial growing up, watching all the good that she did, and, you know, just a very inspiring person, because she has had a very, very interesting and awful things happen to her past as well, right? So don't want to take away all the good things that she has done. Don't want to take away and minimize her experience and what she's done in the past and all the good things and victims that she's helped. However, I don't believe that means that you are then completely eliminated of scrutiny. You know, like I said, there's some things that maybe at the time and throughout the years didn't seem so bad if you looked back at a year and looked at all these things. But if you collectively sit here and go through some of these topics and these pointers and see the people that she's hanging out with that have been over years and years now being exposed and in lawsuits for not being good to women or to children or anything like that, you do have to wonder, like, the company you're keeping and the defending that you're doing, right? So that's what this focus is today. It's like, okay, girl, thank you. Like, amazing. Thank you so much for doing so many good things. But why are we hanging out with these type of people? Why are we, you know, touting to, you know, women empowerment? And then there's all these stories. And these are just 3 of the stories that I'm going to talk about today. If you guys want me to continue deep diving into this in another episode, let me know. But there's far more than what I'm going to even speak about today. But these are just the 3 ones that I wanted to talk about. And there was this other article that I found that was really interesting, talking about how she always seems to be caught up in the middle of these things. And again, rich people do, right? I'm not going to claim just because she knows people that, you know, she did know these things, but you do have to wonder how many times you can claim ignorance before, you know, like, how many times are things a coincidence before it's real? Again, this is alleged. I don't know. I hope that she reflects and looks at the people around her and maybe reevaluates, looking at maybe some red flags that could have been popping up, you know, when it comes to several different people. But even this aside, the articles that I'm going to talk about, I remember how uncomfortable I felt for the Olsen twins. And again, a lot of people were defending her when she asked what size the Olsen twins were, but this was at the height of like the Nikki Richie, like Paris Hilton skinny. And, you know, the Olsen twins were very, very scrutinized for their everything actually at that point, you know, with Full House and whatnot, and them growing up in the spotlight. So they were always completely being chastised about their size. And even, I can't remember which one, apologies. One of them did have an eating disorder, an issue, and did get checked in for that. And I can't imagine what that must have felt like on public TV at that age, going through that publicly, and then have a woman with her influence kind of say those things to you, right? Like, I imagine that might be very painful at a young age. And I do agree with the commenters that are saying, you know, that was kind of inappropriate, not necessarily inappropriate, but it's unfortunate she didn't care for the girls' feelings and experiences, and kind of just more leaned on hers of like, oh, I wish I didn't deal with that. It's like, just because she doesn't hyper focus on her size, that's probably because she is fighting body dysmorphia just in a different way. And being someone that deals with body dysmorphia on that side of the spectrum, I completely related to her and how she was just saying like, oh, I don't look at my size so that she doesn't hyperfixate on it, would be my guess. Because on the opposite side, where Oprah was looking at, you know, obesity and, you know, she said always worrying about her size being bigger and all of that and being hyper focused on that, and not understanding that not knowing your size was beneficial at that time, maybe could have helped her. Instead, it was just like a reflection into like, well, you don't know your size, that must be nice. And it's like, well, no, actually she's probably suffering just on the other spectrum. So I'm really glad that, you know, the conversations are being had now where, you know, those types of things aren't okay to say to anybody. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you are on. And I'll absolutely give, you know, as well as the commenters, Oprah some grace, because we're all learning. And I feel like she learned how to, you know, separate state and home and how to regulate as you're going through stuff, as you're interviewing people, right? So giving her grace that, you know, maybe not handled the best way, but just again, then coupled with all the weight loss pushes and you know, so that's just the bum part. And again, not discrediting all the good, but these are some things that, you know, I really hope she course corrects, because these things are bothersome. And I'm just not going to be as harsh as everybody else just because I can't. I still hold on to the millennial in me. It's just, but there's other things too, as well as like her whole drama with Monique, and you can look into that drama as well. Back in the day, you know, her wanting to have her brother on to speak about childhood abuse, and then, you know, bombarding Monique, not on the show, but then having her whole entire family there, which she didn't want. She didn't want her family to be a part of anything. And unfortunately, Oprah didn't respect that request from Monique. So I think that made a huge rift between them. And, you know, I mean, that's gotta hurt. You didn't want them to be platformed. And then, you know, someone you look up to, care about, friend, maybe perhaps, you know, does that. It kind of sucks, right? I'm sure influencers are feeling that now on like TikTok and YouTube and social media, how sometimes people do shitty things to get numbers. Don't think that that's new. Just here on YouTube and TikTok, that's been happening all over the world forever in every different avenue. And then there was also the big controversy about the Maui fires. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at that one, where people were talking about, for example, allegedly she wasn't allowing people, or only let certain people use her property, which was causing issues as people were trying to escape. Allegedly, I don't know. Again, just reading these high level, can go in and do deeper dives if you guys like to show the articles of what I found there as well. And, you know, her and The Rock were pumping out a lot of, you know, I think it's great to speak on stuff. And of course, awareness and conversing about it is great. But asking people at the time, especially like we had just gone through our own fires. I'm pretty sure California was after. There was disasters in, I think that's when the floods were not that long after. So there's a lot of people going through stuff, right? And so it was just a really hard time. And here you got these millionaires asking, especially when she owns some land on that island, you know, not saying she didn't, but like to be begging, I think people just thought that was a little out of place. And then you hear like only certain people are allowed to use her property. I mean, that just kind of sucks. Those things all suck to hear, right? Especially when you grew up thinking, wow, this, you know, individual could do no wrong. I think I was just a little shattered during the pandemic when I first found out about some of these things. And again, just Seal calling her out as well. I thought that was super interesting, saying, you know, back in the day, pretty much saying, and posted pictures of her and Harvey Weinstein, pretty much saying like, you're acting like you don't know about this and acting like you could be the solution, but you've known this whole time essentially, which obviously that must have been super interesting at the time. I wish I was more dialed into this stuff at the time, honestly. But let's go into the first article here that brought this to my attention today, that I kind of seen, that I wanted to share with you guys. This is back in 2024. Oprah Winfrey always at the scene of the crime. So this would have been right at the height of the Diddy situation. The bright lights of Hollywood distract consumers from the ugliness that hides within. Oprah Winfrey is no stranger to this darkness, as she always seems to be caught at the scene of the crime. Winfrey's name has been interlaced in numerous criminals such as Harvey Weinstein, Sean Diddy Combs, and Jeffrey Epstein. Weinstein was a close friend of Winfrey's for years, and he used his friendship to gain the trust of his victims. Actress Kadian Noble claimed that Weinstein used Winfrey swinging off his arm to dupe her into going back with him to a hotel, according to Entertainment Weekly. However, once Weinstein's crime became public knowledge, Winfrey distanced herself from the situation without directly addressing her relationship with him. If we make this just about Harvey Weinstein, then we have lost this moment, Winfrey told CBS News. The statement was an attempt to shift the focus from Weinstein's crime and victim stories to a bigger picture. Winfrey was desperate to paint herself as a hero once again. However, this time not everyone was convinced. Winfrey's former friend Seal took to Instagram to call her out for suspicious behavior. You have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution, Seal said. Oh, I forgot. That's right. You heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially assaulting young, starry-eyed actresses. My bad. The post was accompanied with a photo of Winfrey kissing Weinstein on the cheek. Again, so not a wrong comment, right? So I'm not going to discredit, like, yes, it shouldn't just be about Harvey Weinstein. Yes, we should open up the conversation more about these things. But as I was listening today and watching some videos and interviews about her speaking about this specifically, I think what kind of bothered me is that she very much was putting the focus on women essentially needing attention and approval and all that kind of stuff, and how the conversation should lead towards more of how do we make this not a thing where women feel like they have to do these things to, and it was very focused on the women and the environment and making sure that this doesn't happen again, versus vetting these individuals and looking into these allegations, and when you have rumors, standing up for them and talking to them. So that was a little disarming for me personally when I'm looking at that. And again, I'm only watching a handful of interviews. Of course, there could be millions. I can't watch possibly everything. So perhaps she has elaborated on this more, but just in this specific interview, it really bothered me that that was the focus, that it was essentially like, yeah, of course, we need to help victims feel empowered to talk about them, but one big way is to not discredit their story. So when you're flipping the script and you're taking it away from several women's aggressor, that is going to upset them a little bit. And when you're just focusing, yes, the conversation needs to be had as well, but in this moment, like timing, gotta be like, yes, what he did was super awful, like validating that while saying at the same time, this also opens as a great opportunity to talk about these other things, not like, oh, we're going to lose a moment here. It's like, well, what do you mean? The moment's not going to be gone. This is just one situation. Like, we got to continue the conversation, right? So that kind of bugged me a little bit, but maybe I'm taking it the wrong way. I can understand that I'm coming from my own lens here. Weinstein is only the first of many abusers tied to Winfrey's brand. She has also attended Diddy's infamous parties, and is featured 5 times in the files from the Epstein trial. Another issue that follows Winfrey wherever she goes is the controversy of her school in South Africa, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. The school was built as a safe haven for disadvantaged girls in grades 8 through 12. However, it has been proven to be anything but that. Multiple students accused dormitory matron Virginia Macapo of abuse and assault. She was arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, according to Reuters. CBC claims that Macapo faced 14 charges involving indecent acts with underage students. Multiple students accused the dormitory matron Virginia Macapo of abuse and assault. She was arrested in November 2007 and released on bail, according to Reuters. CBC claims that Macapo faced 14 charges involving incident acts with underage students. Like, again, could she know about this? Maybe, maybe not. Like again, singular situations. These don't look too bad, do they? Right? Not. Okay, hold on. Whoa. It's not that they don't look bad, but it's very difficult to pin this particularly on her. Like, could she have done a better job vetting? Absolutely. Is she the one partaking in this? No. And there's no evidence of her fully possibly knowing these things that I can see. So, I can understand where if you just see these things over time, they don't seem so crazy. But if you look at, okay, you're friends with Diddy and there's things going on currently there, I'm not going to talk about in this episode because there's still ongoing stuff there. No, she's not moving to Italy. By the way, I looked it up and that's incorrect. That was a rumor. Then, look at how close she was to Harvey Weinstein and all these actresses that came out and said, you absolutely did know, and saying that they feel like they were let down by her. Then you've got the stuff with Monique where she, did stuff that was kind of distasteful to get views versus supporting a friend. Then you've got this school happening over here. And I'm not even close to done, you guys. This is where when you start pinning these things all together, I mean, yeah, she does good things and I'm sure she's a great person in other ways, but how do these things keep surrounding you? I'm just curious, like, and how do we set ourselves up to maybe look at flags or have an idea of what the fuck's going on? Because is this kind of weird though, However, the controversy of Winfrey's South African school does not end there. Speculation of numerous missing girls from the academy spread like wildfire across social media. However, the validity of these statements has not been confirmed nor denied. Winfrey and her team have remained silent on the matter, and it seems that any articles raising concerns over this situation are scrubbed from the internet. A fair share of scandals have been attached to Winfrey recently, yet media coverage criticizing her for all of these instances somehow always seem to disappear. Winfrey's name is constantly tied to trafficking, whether it's due to her relationship or the instances of the Oprah Winfrey Academy for Girls. Still, the only sources talking about this are concerned consumers on social media and small newspapers. No major outlets have discussed Winfrey's suspicious behavior. Instead, they continue to praise her. Winfrey has yet to deny any allegations. Selective media coverage plays a large role in maintaining this image of high-profile celebrities such as Winfrey. Power is used as a scare tactic to prevent reporters from bringing controversial topics to light. Allegedly, supposedly, for entertainment purposes only. Please don't sue me. Is that fair? But that just, as I was going through this, and the biggest reason that I was going through this today is because I was actually thinking about, again, what I want to talk about. And you guys, if you've been around on the podcast, we've talked about cults quite a bit. We've talked about Hollywood quite a bit. And so this kind of, for me, falls in the middle there of, it's where cults, people get away with so much, right? And so I wonder, and Hollywood and celebrity, is that their own, I don't want to use cult lightly, but I feel like some people get this blind perception of celebrities, and then there's no way that they could do anything wrong. Well, when stuff gets scrubbed or you're not watching it on the news and you just see all of the positive things because they can pay for positive stories or for them to show up to capture them. And then, it's known that Kim Kardashian has paid to have articles and pictures taken down. So people that are rich do have a big influence, especially if it's a small journalist trying to expose these things, right? I'm just reading what I find on the internet, Oprah. I'm just reading what's already out there. So please do not, I've got no money. But that does happen. And we've seen that all the time, right? So people being silenced, and yeah, and I've talked about this before, and the last story I'm going to talk about is the most darkest, deepest one, and the worst person that she's been associated with. But another thing is coming up recently with Russel Simmons. So I wanted to go over that as well, because sorry, I'm used to my camera over here, and the last one I was all over the place. I need to get better at where I'm looking at my camera. Anyways, so Russel Simmons, because this is actually something new. And so I want to go over that article, and then we'll go back to the absolute worst one that I could find out there. And stick around. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's actually very upsetting. Oprah Winfrey unequivocally believes Russel Simmons' rape accusers. Why is she being subpoenaed in case? So this was from March 26th. So this is what I want to get recent stuff. So the last one is going to be from ages back. The school was kind of like mid Harvey Weinstein is like mid 2000s. And this is right in 2025. Lawyers for a woman who has accused Russel Simmons of rape subpoenaed Oprah Winfrey in connection with a defamation lawsuit filed by the woman against Simmons in New York State Supreme Court. Drew Dixon previously accused her former boss Simmons, the hip-hop mogul who co-founded Def Jam Recordings, of sexually assaulting her at his New York City apartment in 1995. No criminal charges have been filed against Simmons in connection with the accusations. In February, Dixon filed a lawsuit against Simmons, which was obtained by People, claiming that he defamed her on a 2023 interview with media personality Graham Bensinger. In the interview, Simmons, who has been accused by multiple women of sexual misconduct, denied wrongdoing and said he had never been forceful in any relationship. He speculated that anyone accusing could be motivated by the market where people thirst for fame. When speaking with Bensinger, Simmons referenced Winfrey's decision to pull out of her role as executive producer of On the Record, a 2020 documentary covering allegations against Simmons. The mogul suggested that Winfrey stepped away from the film because the stories didn't add up. In a statement following her decision to step away from the documentary, Winfrey asserted that she believes the accusers. And so, it's so hard because, I just think, it's how do you know? Maybe a lot of this stuff is just saving face. So it's I think maybe he thinks that, but maybe she truly deep down was no, actually, I don't want to be a part of this because I don't believe you, but then also trying to save her face in Hollywood. First and foremost, I want it to be known that I unequivocally believe and support the women, Winfrey said. Their stories deserve to be told and heard, in my opinion. There's more work to be done on the film to illuminate the full scope of what the victims endured, and it has become clear that the filmmakers and I are not aligned in that creative vision. Now, Dixon's attorney has subpoenaed Winfrey, demanding she produce the books, records, papers, data, documents, evidence, writings, and all other tangible things. The subpoena, which was obtained by People, also demands that Winfrey give evidence under oath regarding jurisdictional discovery as permitted by the court in the above captioned action pending in Supreme Court of the State of New York. Simmons has continuously denied sexual assaulting anyone he was first accused in 2017. Winfrey could not immediately be reached for comment. So, like, again, I have absolutely no skin in this game. And I don't really, I maybe dive deeper into Russel Simmons. But what, again, here we're going, okay, so that's three male moguls, one, all entertainment, two, music, one, entertainment. That's three Oprah, three, your school wasn't doing so hot. What are we doing here? Like, throwing our friends under the mall for school? Like, what? Oh, man, just, girlie, you're making it very hard. You're making it very hard as an elder millennial who grew up watching you and was hoping to be sick so I could watch your episodes live. Like, what? This breaks my heart. And, like, again, I'm gonna believe that she wanted to back out because, hey, maybe the people wanted it to look like this never happened, and maybe they wanted to discredit. And when she got up there, she goes, oh, maybe I don't want to be involved in this because this is discrediting the victims. Maybe she got on there and said it's, a little too harsh against him. I'm not entirely sure. But again, it's just kind of shitty that she was even a part of this to be able to have to drop it. And again, do we not know these things? When we hear rumblings, like, we hear it down at our level. Please do not tell me that you guys do not gossip at that level. Come on. Even us peasants gossip. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm trying to be forgiving. You guys see that I'm trying to be forgiving here, right? Like, I've really, really tried. But then we're going to go on to this last one, and I'm going to have grace that perhaps she really didn't know. And that after he was arrested, I really, really hope she had nothing to do with him. But girl, I really, really think you need to check that red flag radar, because here's coming up with another individual that, again, understanding that having people on your show and interviewing as, a talk show host, as a journalist, as a news anchor, all of those things, I don't think we should cancel people for who they're having on, because I think, to a degree, if they're murderers, I don't know, I kind of struggle with that, but I also feel like it depends, like, how that's being presented, right? So there's some fine lines, but for the most part, I don't think we should not have these conversations. So especially as a talk show host, I'm sure it's good for have these conversations. Maybe you have people on and you don't know, maybe they're not vetted, or maybe, you really don't know. But this guy, this is a bad one. So I really hope when he got arrested that you really broke your relationship with him. And this is the one that I found first about your weird relationships with weird ass people. And it's disturbing, y'all. So let's get into it. The final one I have for you guys today. Let's end on a ick. And this is just a high level article, you guys. If you want me, again, like I said, if you want me to dive deeper into these situations and kind of break it out a little bit more, maybe piece by piece, going over John of God and all of these things, I absolutely will. But I always want to empower you guys and give you like Cole's notes so you can go look for yourself, because then when you're ever speaking of this or talking to people, you can say that you looked at it yourself and you didn't just get it from my podcast, because I'm just speculating everything and just grabbing insane stuff that I've seen across the internet and putting it all together. Doesn't mean something. Maybe, doesn't it? I don't know. But I have to take a break from talking about Canada sometimes, and I absolutely love interviewing my guests, but sometimes it's just fun to escape reality and talk about shit that has absolutely nothing to fucking do with me and my reality. Okay, this article. A famous Brazilian, and keep in mind this article is from 2023. A famous Brazilian spiritual healer accused of sexually abusing female followers has been sentenced to more than 118 years in prison for raping 4 women, authorities said. Oh, I'm going to butcher this name. João de Faria, I'm not going to do the middle one, 81, better known as João de Deus or John of God, treated tens of thousands of people per month at his spiritual hospital in the small town of Abadinia in central Brazil, according to officials. He shot to eternal fame when U.S. TV star Oprah Winfrey profiled him in 2013. But hundreds of women later came forward alleging he had sexually forced himself on them in order to cure them of ailments dating back to 1973. Faria was arrested in 2018. The self-described medium who denies the accusations has been under house arrest. Goiás State Criminal Court Judge Marcos Bochat sentenced him Friday to a prison term of 118 years, 6 months, and 15 days on charges of rape via fraud, and rape of vulnerable individuals, the court said in a statement. The ruling grouped a total of 17 cases against Faria, who already had several criminal sentences against him. The judge also ordered him to pay the victim's damages up to 100,000 reais, around $2,500. And honestly, you guys, this is a pretty chill. That was a pretty chill, even though that sounds disgusting. That's a pretty chill article. There's definitely more allegations that I've heard about things that he has done when it comes to women and holding them and making them do things and giving things up that they shouldn't be. Let me know if you want to go deeper into it. I didn't want to necessarily go deeper into it because unless you guys want me to, I will for sure, but it's super dark. And not that this is light, but I wanted to try and do something a little bit different. And I know you guys love the Hollywood episodes, so I thought maybe I'd just pick one because this is a hot topic. And she got brought up today talking about, I think she's seen her friend Gail go to, not space, but that whole situation with Katy Perry. So that was up today, talking about how she was there and crying. And then something came up from Sloan, and I was like, what is Oprah up to? And do people actually know, zoned out, what the heck is going on here with her? And like, girly, they say you're the sum of the people you surround yourself with. And I cannot imagine how many celebrities and rich people and crazy people you must be around. And I can understand that you cannot vet every single one. But there seems to be a little bit of a theme and a pattern here we might want to look into and maybe just get some help on identifying these individuals. Maybe make an Excel and see all the red flags that they have together, because I'm glad to see that you're speaking out and you believe all these things, but at the same time, distancing yourself when it becomes public knowledge doesn't look as good, right? Maybe be the voice sometimes for those people. And hey, you know what? I'm going to have grace that maybe that might be too hard because maybe you haven't healed from your childhood stuff too, which is understandable. At the same time, maybe just try to be a little bit more forward. I don't know what to do. I'm not telling you to do what fucking ever. I don't want people to come for me. I'm just saying these things seem to be weird about Oprah. But anyways, guys, that's why I'm going to wrap it up for this episode. I'm going to make sure to bring one Hollywood episode a month to you guys when it comes to internet insanity. Make sure I'm checking in on what the fuck is going on there. There's a lot going on that I want to talk about, but I'm going to letting some things settle and see how they are simmering a little bit. But I will make sure to come back with some more internet insanity next week. I really appreciate you guys being here. I hope you like this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.